Elizabeth Gilbert, American journalist and writer. Childlessness doesn't make people selfish, selfishness makes people selfish. Creativity itself doesn't care at all about results, the only thing it craves is the process. Learn to love the process and let whatever happens next happen, without fussing too much about it. Work like a monk, or a mule, or some other representative metaphor for diligence. Love the work. Destiny will do what it wants with you, regardless. I feel like there are women who are genuinely born to be mothers, and women who are born to be aunties, and women who really probably not should be allowed near children. The tragedy that happens is when any one of those women ends up in the wrong category. Oh, I just want what we all want, a comfortable couch, a nice beverage, a weekend of no distractions and a book that will stop time, lift me out of my quotidian existence and alter my thinking forever. I am far more of a loner than people would imagine. But I am the most gregarious and socially interactive loner you ever met. The thing is, I am fascinated by people's stories and I'm very talkative and can't ever say no to anything or anyone, so I tend to over-socialize, to give away too much of my time to the many people I adore. I think it's unfortunate that there exists only one path in America to complete social legitimacy, and that is marriage. I think, for instance, that it would be far easier for Americans to elect a black president or a female president than an unmarried president. Marriage is not simply a romantic union between two people. It's also a political and economic contract of the highest order. Which is, like check it out, I'm pretty young. I'm only about 40 years old. I still have maybe another 4 decades of work left in me. And it's exceedingly likely that anything I write from this point forward is going to be judged by the world as the work that came after the freakish success of my last book, right? Part of the elasticity that you need, in order to continue to try to create, is the foregone conclusion that not all of it is going to be fabulously successful. But it's all going to be part of a long lifetime body of experimentation. Listen, of course money changes everything, but so does sunlight, and so does food. These are powerful but neutral energy sources, neither inherently good nor evil, but shaped only by the way we use them. I've always been afraid of saying no to people because I don't want them to be disappointed and dislike me. Even I have had work or ideas come through me from a source that I honestly cannot identify. And what is that thing? And how are we to relate to it in a way that will not make us lose our minds, but, in fact, might actually keep us sane? My career started young and I was really ambitious, and then I had success and I hung out with people who were much older. I think I might have been temporally misplaced, so I thought I was 40. It was a premature midlife crisis. I have a rigid self-accountability. You have to work hard. If you are given only one opportunity to speak, be certain your voice is heard. I push every day against forces that say you have to go faster, be more effective, be more productive, you have to constantly outdo yourself, you have to constantly outdo your neighbor, all of the stuff that creates an incredibly productive society, but also a very neurotic one. These days, I settle for feeling only 85% sure about most things, most of the time. I believe this is keeping me sane, and I also believe that it's keeping me human. In fact, I'm 85% sure of it. Sanity and clarity are more important for me, and I'm willing to give up a lot of shimmer for it. I'm willing to have more boring friends who are sane. You know, why at the end of your life should you assemble thousands of pages of why am I so sad? Why am I so depressed? Instead, assemble thousands of pages of why you're so content. We set up one rule in our house, which is, guests of guests cannot bring guests. That rule was required because that happened one weekend, and we finally said, okay, you know what? That's a little too much. My writing practice taught me the important thing is steadfastness. It's not necessarily discipline. Discipline can become a prison. When your spiritual practices become another thing for you to be anxious about, they've lost their usefulness. That is who Barack Obama is, a person of admirable character, and that is who he has remained for me over these last 4 years. I have not agreed with his every decision, but never once have I seen him break his cool, lose his composure, or abandon his insightful perspective even during the most serious and/or absurd national disasters. If life gives you lemons, don't settle for simply making lemonade, make a glorious scene at a lemonade stand. I know I'm not a self-indulgent idiot. I also know I'm not the second coming of Deepak Chopra. If I had believed either of those, or both, as some people do when they get famous, that's when the mental illness arrives. Sureness is something like a neck brace, which we clamp around our lives, hoping to somehow protect ourselves from the frightening, constant whiplash of change. Sadly, the brace doesn't always hold. I've always considered myself lucky that I do not have many passions. There's only one pursuit that I have ever truly loved, and that pursuit is writing. This means, conveniently enough, that I never had to search for my destiny, I only had to obey it. I think a lot of people who feel as though they desperately want to be married oftentimes simply desperately want to have a wedding. Absolute certainty is not something I strive for anymore. I've learned the hard way that destiny usually looks upon our most strident convictions with amusement, or perhaps even pity. Despite having written 5 books, I worry that I have not written the right kinds of books, or that perhaps I have dedicated too much of my life to writing, and have therefore neglected other aspects of my being. I have no business being a journalist. I'm the least, I'm the most trusting. I absolutely make a habit of believing anything that anybody tells me about themselves. I've never had any reason in the world to think that anyone has wanted to harm me or lie to me. I believe whatever is being sold, most of the time. My husband is not American. He was born in Brazil, where he grew up under a filthy, corrupt dictatorship. In his 20s, he moved to Europe, where he lived for a while under various socialist democracies. He spent a few years on a kibbutz in Israel, living out a utopian experiment in communal existence. When I diagnose my depression now, I think it was partially about saying goodbye to these kids that I always expected to have, but already knew that I wouldn't. I'm a pleaser. That's my character. But ancient Greece and ancient Rome, people did not happen to believe that creativity came from human beings back then, okay? People believed that creativity was this divine attendant spirit that came to human beings from some distant and unknowable source, for distant and unknowable reasons. I used to say, man, I think I'd be a really good dad. I'll be a great provider. I'm funny, I'll go on trips with them, I'll do all sorts of stuff. But the momming? I'm not made for that. I have a really good mom. I know what she put into it. But when it comes to writing, the thing that I've sort of been thinking about lately is why? You know, is it rational? Is it logical that anybody should be expected to be afraid of the work that they feel they were put on this earth to do? My whole life I've been an overgiver. My general operating policy has always been, if it belongs to me, don't worry, you can have it. I don't think you can come into your wisdom until you have made mistakes on your own skin and felt them in reality of your own life. When somebody has an enormous success in this culture, people start asking two questions, which are, what are you doing now? And how are you going to beat that? And I have to say, I love the assumption that your intention is to beat yourself constantly, that you're in battle against yourself. If I could read while I was driving, showering, socializing, or sleeping, I would do it. Every few years, I think, maybe now I'm finally smart enough or sophisticated enough to understand Ulysses. So I pick it up and try it again. And by page 10, as always, I'm like, what the hell? I think that people who live in cultures without quite so much privilege, opportunity, or grandiosity have a little bit more respect for the workings of destiny, and the limitations that people can find themselves in through no fault of their own. There are times when the only access I have to the truest person that I am is when I'm alone and trying to solve a sentence. It's exciting, even when it's frustrating, even when I can't do it right. I myself have never been enchanted by the dream of the white wedding, and, heaven help us, the expectation that this exquisitely catered event should be the happiest moment of one's life. I think sometimes we look at other people's marriages and we think they must always be so happy together. I don't know anybody who's married for a long time who hasn't somehow made room in their love story for the hate and resentment that they sometimes feel toward each other. I was a writer before Eat, Pray, Love, and I'll be a writer after it's over. It's what I want to do for the rest of my life. I consider a good dinner party at our house to be where people drink and eat more than they're meant to. My husband is a really fantastic cook. His mother is Italian, and if you walk into our house, we assume you're starving. And we have a little herb garden, which survived the winter thanks to global warming. It makes me feel like a cool, old Italian housewife, that I kept my rosemary alive outside all winter. Mine is just a simple old human story of one person trying, with great rigor and discipline, to comprehend her personal relationship with divinity. Nobody until very recently would have thought that their husband was supposed to be their best friend, confidant, intellectual soulmate, co-parent, inspiration. If I am to truly become an autonomous woman, then I must take over that role of being my own guardian. I have these new policies toward my life, like I will not accelerate when I see the yellow light.